The opening scene begins 33 years after Ark Fall, the time when an alien race called Votan invaded the Earth. Since then, the landscape of the planet has been terraformed. We are then introduced to our protagonist, Joshua Nolan, who is driving with his adopted alien daughter, Irisa. Turns out, they're looking for things to scavenge and sell so that they can afford going to Antarctica, which is now apparently a mystical paradise. After a while of driving, the two arrive at a wrecked spaceship and begin searching for salvageable technology. Soon after, they find a spherical power source, seemingly worth a lot of money, but before they can leave the scene, they are ambushed by an alien gang called Spirit Riders, who take Irisa hostage and demand everything they have. The duo distracts them and somehow manages to escape, but Irisa is shot in the process. As a result, Nolan has to carry her along. Upon reaching a safe distance, they hear some strange noises, prompting them to stop, sensing an imminent danger. Nolan quickly hides the sphere under a broken tree and takes a cautious measure. Moments later, they are surrounded by the spider-like mutant creatures that launch their attack on them. Nolan begins shooting down these creatures until he runs out of ammunition. As they're on the brink of being killed, a group of sheriffs show up to their aid and fend the creatures off. Following this, the father and daughter are escorted to the nearby settlement called Defiance, which is built on the ruins of St. Louis, Missouri. Currently, the people there are celebrating the anniversary of the end of the Pale Wars and the founding of Defiance, which is now housing a diverse community of human and Votan survivors. On this occasion, the mayor of Defiance, Amanda, delivers a brief speech in which she expresses her gratitude towards two benefactors who covered the expenses of this festival, a wealthy and influential cast of fan, Data, and the owner of the mines, Rafe McCauley. These two folks are rivals who want to dominate each other, kind of like how Bezos and Musk want to dominate each other. On the contrary, the attack's son Alak and Rafe's daughter Christy seem to like each other. In the next scene, Nolan and Irisa are brought to Defiance, his medical facility, where an Indo-Gene doctor, Yule, treats their injuries while the girl recovers. Nolan is summoned by the mayor to inquire about their details. Amanda asks him to leave as soon as they recover, but he asserts that they firstly need to earn money because they were robbed by Spirit Riders. Hearing this, the mayor suggests that he go to the brothel house, as his handsome face will easily be accepted there. Later that evening, Alec and Christy are seen dancing at a bar. Their romantic moment is abruptly interrupted by Christy's older brother Luke, who strongly disapproves of their relationship. He orders Alec to stay away from his sister, but the latter denies this. Causes a scuffle between the two of them, but they're separated by Christy's younger brother Quentin. Following this, Luke leaves the scene, claiming to have an appointment, but he mysteriously disappears. Meanwhile, with no money and no equipment, Nolan and Irisa attempt to make a quick fortune through prize fighting. It turns out that the fighting arena is owned by Daytak, who makes money by betting on his strongest fighter. Much to everyone's surprise, Nolan manages to defeat the opponent and win a substantial amount of money. However, most of his winnings are confiscated by Daytak, who alleges that he used an illegal low blow. With no other choice, Nolan goes to a brothel house and sleeps with a bartender, Kenya, who is none other than the mayor's sister. On the other hand, the McCauley family are dining when they are visited by Sheriff Clancy. He brings the tragic news that Luke has been murdered, shocking everyone when the sheriff asks if they have any enemies. Quentin discloses the prior altercation between Luke and Alec, casting suspicion that the latter is the murderer filled with rage and vengeance. Rafe goes in search of Alec, followed by Clancy. He confronts him in a bar, accusing him of the crime. However, the boy seems to be unaware of all this, and tries to explain that he was here the entire time. Just then, Nolan, who walks out of a room with Kenya, notices this and decides to intervene. He tries to stop the fight, but the enraged Rafe orders his guard to take him away. As a result, a fight ensues, during which Clancy is accidentally shot, resulting in his death before the fight escalates any further. Amanda shows up to handle the situation. She promises to track down the murderer, but Rafe questions how she'll do so, as the sheriff is already dead. Right then, Nolan steps forward, offering to take on the task in exchange for good money. The very next day, he, along with Amanda and Rafe, head to the woods where Luke's dead body was found. Upon thorough investigation of the area and examining scattered bloodstains, Nolan concludes that the killer is an Indo-Gene with a bad left leg. Hearing this, Amanda recalls her indigene assistant Ben, who said that he hurt his leg last night. Without any delay, the trio had to apprehend him, and he is currently planting a bomb on the stasis net. He intends to destroy the generator powering the shield protecting Defiance. A short while later, they manage to capture Ben, but it's too late as the bomb detonates, disabling the town's main defense system. When questioned about his actions, Ben admits that an army of Vulgar race are approaching Defiance with the intent of destroying the town. Sensing the urgency of the situation, Amanda gathers all the townspeople to construct a defense plan. As for Nolan and Irisa, they collect their reward and set off for their envisioned paradise. However, after recovering the sphere from the woods, Nolan has a change of heart and decides to return to help Defiance. This decision sparks a conflict with Irisa, who chooses to leave him behind. Nolan then returns to the town and hands over the sphere to Yule, who starts preparing a huge explosion. He then joins the townspeople and takes position on the cliff, aiming at a narrow canyon outside Defiance. Amidst this, a man from Castafan race, Ela Bandik, flees the battle out of fear, which leaves Datak infuriated. As soon as the Volgia approaches the town's gate, the residents open fire and try to hold them back until Yule completes the explosive setup. However, it's clearly getting hard due to the overwhelming number of Volgia. Just when it seems that the town is about to be overrun, Irisa returns, leading some Irathian spirit riders. This earns enough time for Yule to complete the setup. All the townspeople then retreat inside, after which Yule triggers the explosion, wiping out the entire Volga force. In the aftermath, Amanda is seen resting at the medical facility after sustaining some minor injuries. Nolan then pays her a visit to report that 41 people lost their lives in the battle. Hearing this, she says that they must find out who sent the Volga and what they're trying to accomplish. She also hands him a sheriff's badge, offering him to become the new lawkeeper, with his daughter being one of his deputies. When he hesitates, Amanda persuades him, pointing out that Defiance is a nice place to live. Elsewhere, we see a former mayor, Nikki, talking with a man named Birch at a restaurant. Through their conversation, it's revealed that they're the ones to blackmail Ben. They wanted the Volga to attack and destroy Defiance for reasons yet undisclosed. The next day, Ella is accused of cowardice and is strung up in the city in order to undergo the cleansing ceremony, a ritual torture before execution. However, Nolan and Darissa arrive at the scene and stop them. This infuriates Datak, the Castafan leader. Just then, Amanda shows up, but she allows the ritual to continue. She takes Nolan for a private conversation and explains that she can't go against the religions of the races. She then tells him about a previous incident when the town officials went door to door to force mandatory vaccines on Iratian children, an action that killed many of them. Since then, the town has allowed each of the 8 alien races to practice their beliefs without human interference. Nolan questions the mortality of this approach, but Amanda asserts that it's necessary. In the meantime, Birch infiltrates the infirmary and wakes up the unconscious Ben by injecting a substance into his forehead. He then threatens to operate their old plan related to the mines, or else he'll harm Ben's family. On the other hand, Rafe is displeased with his daughter agreeing to marry Alak. He forbids her from returning home unless she calls off the wedding. In contrast, the Tar family supports the wedding, as they are planning to secure their upper hand against the Macaulays once their son marries Christy. A short while later, Rafe receives a phone call informing him about an explosion in one of his mines. This worries him, so he hurries towards the same. Sometime later, Nolan and Amanda also arrive at the mine, where Rafe reports that Ben attacked the guards and escaped underground with 20 kilograms of explosive chemicals. Upon further discussion, Nolan learns that the mine shaft leads to St. Louis and that some sections of the old city are still intact underground due to the 780 terraforming folding over it. The quickest way to get down there is to go through a maze of tunnels with steep drops and razor-sharp rocks called the Rat's Nest. Despite the danger, Rafe, along with some miners, decide to go down. Nolan also decides to join them to make sure everyone is safe. Later, at Amanda's office, Nikki pays her a visit to inform her that she's going out of town for some time. Amanda then expresses how she wants to stop the Cast Athens display in the streets, but the old woman disagrees, pointing out that it's all the alien races have left. After a brief chit-chat, she leaves in a car with Birch simultaneously, heading through the underground tunnels. The group reaches Old St. Louis on the way. Rafe informs that there's a new, nuclear plant underground, which must be where Ben is hiding. If it blows up, the radiation will kill everyone. Hours later, they arrive at the nuclear plant, where they're suddenly attacked by Ben. After a brief gunfight, the group manages to apprehend him despite Rafe's immediate impulse for vengeance. Nolan reminds him that they need him alive so that they can find out who is behind all of this. However, Ben provokes Rafe by revealing that Luke was trying to earn money to abandon Defiance and his father by helping him. Turns out he hated his father for what he had done to his mother. In this heated moment, he throws himself on Rafe's gun and pulls the trigger. Killing himself outside, Irisa goes to the Castafan gathering and watches as they place rocks in the basket, adding weight, which stretches out Ayla's body. Unable to tolerate this ritual any longer, she climbs up and cuts him down. This expectedly enrages the Castafans, and they begin to throw rocks at her. Just then, another deputy named Tommy shows up and fires his gun into the air, halting everyone in order to support Irisa in her mission. He pretends that Ayla is under arrest for loitering and brings him to the station for protection. A short while later, the furious Datak and his men walk into the station to retrieve Ela. Amanda also shows up at the scene and denounces that she's pardoned Ela from all violations of Cast Athens law. Not long after, Nolan, Rafe, and their crew return from the mine and arrive at the station in the mayor's support. This forces Datak to back off for the time being, but he vows to return later. Nolan then reports about Ben's death, which makes the mayor visibly upset. In the next scene, a memorial service is held for those 41 people who died defending the town from the Volga. Meanwhile, Rafe struggles to comprehend Ben's final words regarding Luke. He goes through his son's belongings and discovers maps, a stash of money, and a strange gold object indicating that Ben was right elsewhere. Ayla has one last meal with his family, after which he departs with Datak. He expresses gratitude to his leader for allowing him some time with his family. Afterwards, the man is found dead in front of the sheriff's office. Several days later, one of the residents of Defiance is seen jogging in the woods. During this, he is trailed by an unknown creature that soon attacks him before dragging him away. Back in the town, Irisa is approached by a group of spirit riders from her race. They try to convince her to join them, pointing out that she doesn't belong in the town. Before she can respond, she receives a call from Nolan summoning her to the crime scene with Tommy. Once there, they learn that the jogger's body has been brutally mutilated, and the bone marrow has been sucked clean. Amidst the investigation, Irisa has a weird vision that distracts her for a moment, but she keeps it to herself. We then cut to the brothel house, where Kenya is arousing a client. Suddenly, numerous spikes rip out of the man's body, resulting in his brutal death. And I thought PE was the worst that could happen. In a state of panic, Kenya contacts the sheriffs, who arrive with Doc Yule. Upon examination, they discover that the victim was targeted with pheromones, attracting hellbugs, to kill him. The dead man's tattoo causes Irisa to have another vision, leaving her disturbed. She then walks out, and her concerned dad follows her. He seems to be well aware about her recurring visions, and he reminds her that they aren't real. Not long after, they find an empty hellbug egg purse, something that one can't find outside the nest. This leads them to believe that someone is behind the hellbug attacks. Meanwhile, at the Tar residence, the family is having dinner with Christy. During the meal, the attack insults her in his native language. Christy, who has been learning the language, understands the insults and is offended. This prompts her to excuse herself and walk away, followed by Alak outside. They are startled by the sudden emergence of hellbugs. Hearing their screams, Datak comes to their rescue and manages to kill the attacking bugs. He then escorts Christy back to her place, and Rafe thanks him for saving his daughter. Shortly after, Nolan and his squad walk into Rafe's house to investigate the bug problem. Upon checking if any of them was targeted, they discover that Christy's clothes are sprayed with the pheromones. As a result, Nolan tells her to burn her clothes and take a shower to get rid of them. He then begins to question Rafe about the victims, and the latter reveals that the two dead men had sold land to him in the past. Nolan, believing that the attacks are somehow connected with that fact, asks him for all the paper details. Rafe explains that there was nothing illegal when he bought the land, but the two men had acquired it from an irate family. When Nolan sees the signatures on the papers, he senses something amiss. In the meantime, Irisa experiences another round of visions, this time focusing on Ren, one of the women four. The spirit riders disturbed, she runs towards a nearby field to breathe some fresh air. However, the unsettling visions persist, depicting conflicts between irates and humans. When she starts to panic, Nolan approaches her and calms her down. Later on, the two go to see Sukar, the leader of the spirit riders, in order to talk about Rin. Despite being initially hesitant, Sukar eventually agrees. When she tells him about her visions, this also makes him realize that she possesses an ability to see the past, the present, and the future without actually being present for the events. Sukar attributes this ability to the Arathiant god, Ezru, considering Irisa to be blessed. He then helps her use her ability by performing a ritual. Upon doing so, she is able to access those visions more clearly. They reveal about Rin's tragic past, her parents, who were murdered by the same two men who were killed earlier because they didn't want to sell their land. In retaliation, she used her abilities to unleash hellbugs on the two men. Irisa also locates the hellbug nest where Rin is currently hiding out. Armed with this information, the trio heads to the hellbug nest located in a warehouse. Once there, they go down a long shaft via elevator. Before heading further inside, they wipe the defecation of the hellbugs on themselves so that the bugs won't sense them. If there's one thing worse than poo, it's bug poo. And if there's one thing worse than bug poo, it's bug poo from hell. Soon after, they come across hundreds of insects nesting at the bottom, along with a really big one that is probably the queen. Sukar begins to search for Ren, but she shoots him and demands the rest of them to disarm themselves. She also threatens to unleash the hellbugs on them, but Irisa tries to reason with her, saying that she has already avenged her parents' death. Despite this, Rin remains unconvinced and releases the pheromones. In retaliation, Irisa throws a knife at her, while Nolan grabs the pheromone container and throws it at the queen hellbug, causing the young insects to attack her. The group then hops into the elevator, and Nolan detonates the bomb, blowing up all the hellbugs into pieces as they ride up in the aftermath. Amanda announces that the land that Rafe didn't legitimately own will be returned to the Irathians, and they will lease the land back to him. This resolution bridges the gap between irates and humans after years. The episode ends with Rin in prison, Rafe seemingly accepting his daughter's relationship with Alec, and Nolan soothing Irisa, who continues to experience unsettling visions while sleeping. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications,